Most scholars don't believe that Paul was the author of the epistles of 1 Timothy, 2 Timothy, and Titus. Hey everybody, I'm Dan McClellan. I'm a scholar of the Bible and religion. These epistles are known as the Pastoral Epistles, and if you look in any critical commentary on these epistles, you will see the consensus view that they were not authored by Paul, but probably 2 to 4 decades after his death at the end of the 1st century CE or the beginning of the 2nd century CE. And you can even look in conservative commentaries on the Pastoral Epistles, and they will explain that the majority view is that Paul was not the author of these epistles. If they object to that majority view, they will generally do so on the grounds that we have to prioritize the witness of the early church and what the earliest Christians believed about their canonicity, because that's a stronger argument than going internally into the text. Scholars have noted for many, many years that the literary quality of the Pastoral Epistles is inferior to that of the genuine Pauline epistles. It is not as sophisticated literarily or even theologically. In fact, where there is overlap in themes that are discussed in the genuine Pauline epistles and in the pastorals frequently discuss them differently. The righteousness of God is discussed differently. Being in Christ is represented differently in the pastoral epistles. The relationship of faith to works is represented differently in the pastoral epistles. And then there are other things that are not represented at all. Paul's discussion of the soma, the body, is central in the genuine Pauline epistles, entirely absent from the pastoral epistles. The notion of the time being short is emphasized in the genuine Pauline epistles. It's entirely absent from the pastoral epistles. The gender politics of the pastoral epistles are far more misogynistic than the genuine Pauline epistles. Of the almost 1,000 words in the pastoral epistles, apart from names and place names, almost a third of them don't occur anywhere in the genuine Pauline epistles. And if you look at those words that are not in the genuine Pauline epistles, the majority of them are actually very common to the Hellenistic literature of the late 1st century CE and the early 2nd century CE, and particularly developing church language. And in fact, when you look at the way the church is represented in the pastoral epistles, this is a far more developed institutional structure that we find in the genuine Pauline epistles, and the pastoral epistles are concerned for offices within that institution that are discussed in very different ways in the genuine Pauline epistles. There seems to be concern for things like Gnosticism in the pastoral epistles, which did not exist when Paul was alive. All of this combines to convince the majority of scholars that the pastoral epistles were not written by Paul, but were written decades after his death.